Hi everybody, I'm Jeff Siadek, designer of Battlestations.
And I'm Joey Vigour, I'm the producer of Battlestations. We're here to talk to you about how to be a great enemy.
Yeah.
So Jeff, what is the enemy?
In Battlestations, there is one player who controls the enemy ship, the space navigation hazards, the monsters, whatever else is going on. They also make rulings about the rules. So it's sort of like the Dungeon Master in a role-playing game, but in Battlestations it's very specific that they get to play against the players.
So what do you think is the number one thing you can do as the enemy player to make sure that the evening is a rousing success?
Just like with any game, it's keeping all of the players engaged. You need to make it about the players, that everybody doesn't need to know how every rule works, but at any given moment, everybody should have something they're excited about that's happening to their characters that they're going to do, and you have to make sure that all the players know what their options are and help them get through that.
Yeah, for me, whenever I invite someone to play Battlestations, 100% of the time, if they haven't played before, they always say, I don't think I have time to learn a new game, or, oh, that sounds like a lot. And I say, don't worry. You don't have to know anything. You show up, the enemy player can basically facilitate the experience. You can sort of, in other words, help teach them the rules, but even if you don't know the rules, and this is maybe your first time being the enemy player, just make sure you make it about the heroes first.
Yeah.
It's not as important if you win. Let's just get,
Yeah, I say it's balanced and you should play to win, but realistically, the heroes win a lot more than 75% of the time.
Well, it's if there's 5 or 6 or 7 heroes and there's one enemy, it makes sense.
Well, the one enemy's got the resources of an entire galaxy.
Right,
behind
but I'm saying the goal of the game is for the most people to have fun and be happy.
That's true. You
should still be having fun even if you lose, but ultimately you want more players to keep coming over, and that's why you got the game in the first place. So let's talk about the specifics. I would say the number 2 thing for me is preparation, that you know the rules as much as possible. You know the universe at least a little bit, and you can sort of add your own flavor in there. And most importantly, you know the mission.
Yeah, the missions, it's only one page, so it's not long to read it. I would read it once, and because when I'm going to be running a mission at a convention or whatever, I might not have seen this mission. I wrote it a year or 2 ago. I read it again.
Or 14 years ago.
Yes, or 14. And get up to speed, and then you can run it.
Right. And of course also there's an enemy's eyes only section. Make sure you don't let the players see that section, because sometimes it'll say, the computer is unlocked with the code blah blah blah, and
Yeah.
Let's just remember that one section needs to be kept private. In general, I don't think I've really seen any enemy player ever use a screen to conceal their ship. But technically, unless the human characters, the hero characters are doing scans on the enemy ship, they're not technically supposed to know the ins and outs. So if a human says, I keep saying human. If a hero player is saying, what are you doing over there on the ship? You can say, no, don't worry about it.
Right.
But it doesn't really matter. You're trying to have fun here. You're not trying to be...
Once in a great while, I will shield some of the ship, some or all of the ship, and I've seen enemies do that. It's kind of a hassle, and so I usually just say, okay, we'll leave that there.
And most of the missions are designed so that it doesn't really matter that much.
One thing I will do a lot is I won't put the enemy characters on the ship, or I'll leave them on the ship and not move them around so that the heroes don't know exactly where they are. So if the heroes get a shot on the ship and they say, we're going to roll hit allocation, then I mentally put the enemies in the spots where they should be, so that the heroes who can see the ship don't say, they're all lined up in this column, we're going to aim for that column. I say, well, you don't have a scan on them yet, so you don't really know if they're in that column.
Yeah.
Having said that, they're usually in that column because that's the most important place to be.
Yeah. So let's talk about the third way you can be a great enemy player, and it involves tracking all those little fiddly numbers. How do you do it?
So I use polyhedrals. I use like a 10-sided die to track the hit points. So if this Zawalin has taken 7 points of damage, they take 2 points off, so we almost put a 5 next to them, and there it is. And I use polyhedrals instead of 6-sideds because you never accidentally pick them up to throw them, because the only dice in Battlestations are the 6-sided dice.
Right. And of course the Zawalin, you take two points off because of the
Carapace.
Right. You skim right past that, but I wanted to throw that out there since my favorite character.
I was testing your knowledge. Oh yeah, because they've got 3 hands to hold 3 grenades.
I'm a grenade.
Joey's a grenade.
I'm a great, and I have a carapace to protect me whenever I drop one.
Yeah.
I love that grenades are such a classic weapon, and you're in basically the depths of space with a very breakable ship, and I'm bouncing grenades off hallway corridors and stuff like that. Okay, so what is the fourth most important way you as an enemy character can facilitate fun?
The fourth way you can be a great enemy is to, I touched on this earlier, about being willing to blow off the rules. That the rules in Battlestations are tight and they're solid and they're good, but they're also buried in the books, and if you don't remember what the rule is for something, rather than stopping the game while you look it up, it's much better to just take a guess at it, because usually the difficulty on something is like an 8 or an 11, and it's pretty obvious what skill it's going to use. So if you say, I want to launch a missile, then that's on the cheat sheet, and it's going to say 11. That's going to be easy to find. But if it wasn't on the cheat sheet, and I might say, it's combat, of course, because it's a red module, it's a difficulty 8. And I was wrong there, but then you throw the dice, you launch a missile, whatever, we play, and then later on when I look it up, I say, that was 11. But it's not going to ruin the game as much as if I were to page through the book and say, wait, I know where this rule is.
Okay, so the last thing on the list, I actually have one more I'm going to add, but the last thing on your list basically was play to win. And you touched on it very briefly earlier. What does that mean, play to win? Because usually, obviously, game masters are not even really playing the game, except in the rare RPG. But why don't you talk about what it means to play to win?
So when you're controlling an enemy ship, in a role-playing game, you might be tempted to say, let's make this an interesting challenge and that. But in Battlestations, you've got an objective and you just go for it. And the heroes have an objective and you want to thwart them. So I wouldn't say have the enemies intentionally, if there's a character down, intentionally put a blaster up to his head and do a coup de grace and kill him. Unless that was part of the mission. And one of the great things about Battlestations is I've done that. Actually, I've done that in a mission. And
hopefully not anywhere else.
and I've had my players just totally outraged because there I am killing a character and that's no fun. But actually, if you've got a sick bay, you can get brought back. And so there's this. So then when I do that in a game, or I'll kill somebody and throw them out the airlock as I'm trying to escape. And so now the heroes, instead of launching a missile at me, they're launching a rescue pod to get that guy back so they can bring him back to his ship, bring him in the sick bay.
It's a tactical decision.
And so even when you're playing, it looks like you're being a total jerk, and you're playing to kill and be just vindictive. Like, that guy's already unconscious. Why would you throw a grenade in a room with 2 unconscious people?
Yeah.
Well, it's because I know you've got med kits on your team, and I know you've got sick bays, and it's still tactical. To put those guys down farther means that's more resources you're going to spend that way. So play to win means just exactly that play to stop the heroes and do everything you can. Don't break the rules. Don't bend the rules.
Right.
I wouldn't say, oh, well, you're having too easy a time of it, so it looks like all the enemies happen to be shock troopers and they get an extra shot.
Yeah, of course. And one thing I've noticed actually is that you sometimes can get an extra play out of a mission if the heroes fail miserably, and there's we had a hilarious experience where someone died, their ship exploded, a rescue pod. Can't remember who it was, but
there's been a lot of goofy stuff.
But basically, you can play the mission again.
Yeah.
And if the mission ends quickly, you can play it again quickly. And if it takes a while, you can play it a different time and say, oh, remember, you guys are still stuck on that one mission. But the good thing about the enemy is you're not really tracking enemy wins. You're really tracking the hero wins. So you're not cheating like in role-playing games, but you are facilitating fun for the most number of people. And let's talk about real quick, just to add on to this, the plot twist cards. Talk about the plot twist cards and which ones you think are nasty and how you should use those.
So the plot twist cards are, they're cards that say different bad things that can happen to the heroes. Everybody drops something, or everybody gets -1 of their movement, and you can also discard the cards for 2 enemy luck.
Right, this is new in 2nd edition. 1st edition, enemies didn't have luck. So now, depending on the difficulty of the mission, that's the number of cards you get?
The number of cards you get is based on the number of players plus the highest rank of the players. So if you got 5, the highest ranking hero. Yeah. So if you have 5 players and the highest ranking guy is 4, then you get 9 cards. And you discard each card for up to 2 luck. When I'm running for beginners at a convention, I will lower the mission difficulty by 1 intentionally. So when they should be facing guys with skill 3, they might be facing guys with skill 2. Yeah. So it makes it easier. And And I don't think it's dishonest of me to do that. I think it's just a way of saying, okay, and even though I do that, I still play to win. But it's just harder to win with, weaker characters.
Well, the last thing on my list, and feel free to add anything else if you want. My favorite way, probably overall, that you can be a great enemy player is actually before the mission starts and after the mission is over. Don't be an enemy. Help with character creation and help with character upgrades.
Yeah.
This is important, that you're not, okay, so I'm, the Empire, and I'm going to try to destroy you, and you're these little helpless guys, and then just sit there while they fumble trying to upgrade their ship or upgrade their equipment. Help them out, be their friend. If they have questions before the game starts, answer those questions. But really make sure that everyone is enjoying it from a thematic perspective.
Yes, that's what I was going to say. It's one thing I've learned from my friend Joey is that you need to bring people into the universe, make it come alive. Because these are literally just pieces of plastic moving around on pieces of cardboard. If you bring it to life and say what's happening, that this guy is out to kill you and he's firing his heavy blaster at you, and in this powered armor he's coming down the corridor, you can really make the people say, oh gosh, that's something happening. And then you roll the damage. Look at that, there's 8 points of damage. You want to spend some luck and really make it fun and exciting to get killed by a guy in powered armor.
Yeah, my favorite Battlestations experience actually was the one or two times that you were not the enemy player. It was someone else. It might have been our friend Dennis, but he made it a thematic experience. That someone warped into a different dimension essentially, and he was like, it was darkness on the ship. You can see the faint flicker of electronics, that were ripped out, and it was like, oh my gosh, I can see that in my mind's eye. When you run missions, you're so busy trying to facilitate so many players, and it's so loud at conventions sometimes that sometimes you just say, "Oh yeah, you phased out. You're in a different dimension." It's like
yes, yeah, and so it takes place at the rules level, and it takes place at the thematic level, and the game takes place at the personal level of what's going on with the people in the room.
Yeah,
and it's important to keep all of those things in balance. That if somebody had a rough day, then you don't want to just be unkind to them. You still want to kill their character, but you don't want to be unkind.
Yeah, and remember, like Jeff said many times, you kill their character, they wake up in a vat of clone protoplasm.
Yes.
And they're like, oh, what happened? And
with a shiny new medal.
Yeah, a medal for bravery, which luckily they've forgotten about because that clone hasn't experienced it. So anyway, I think let's end on that. I love the make it come alive. I think that's a really good way to end this.
We can probably cut everything you said except for what I just said there, because it's like such a nugget. I'm Jeff Siadek.
I'm Joey Vigour. Go play some Battlestations.
Battlestations!